Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. And first off, I have to congratulate you on your award, the ARBIA 2025 award for Children's Picture Book of the Year.
Yeah,
You excited about that?
very, very. I got back from Melbourne yesterday. I went over there for the awards ceremony, which was Wednesday night. And it was very special. It was dinner and music and lights and all very special. So it was great. And I actually finally got to meet the author Deb in person.
Oh, you haven't met her
'Cause she,
before.
no, she lives in Melbourne and I live in Adelaide.
Well, I find that
We
fascinating. Wow. So
Yeah.
do you get to choose which books you illustrate or?
Um, I suppose in some ways, I mean, I get sent, usually a publisher will get in touch with me. So in this case, it was Hardy Grant, and they sent me the story and said, would you be interested? And so that's usually how it works. The author will work with the publisher first to get their story just
Mhm.
right, and then the publisher and the author will sort of talk a bit about who they think might work with the story best as far as illustrating goes, and then they'll get in touch and goes from there. And but most of the time I'll say yes because it's always, I mean, it's lovely to
Of
be
course.
involved and asked,
Yeah.
no
I
matter the
just even
story.
pictured, I guess in my mind, as I picture you working together, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
happen that way, I guess in
I know.
person anyway.
Yeah, and I think most people imagine that's the process, and that can happen sometimes,
Mm.
but a lot of the time, the author and the illustrator are sort of in different states, or quite a distance away from each other. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
And you've illustrated so many beautiful Australian picture books, and mine were my favorite, Fire Wombat. So I
Oh
used to
yes.
always use that with my classes,
Oh cool.
and it would just pull them in straight away. Your illustrations are quite special, and I don't know how you do it or how long it takes.
Oh,
It'd
thank
be
you.
really interesting to hear about it because it really helps to build the story and obviously with the characters.
Yeah.
So I'll start with these questions that we've got from the shadow judges, who will be very
Yes.
keen to hear your anss.
I'll do
So
my
the
best to
yeah,
answer. They were great questions as well.
they are.
I had to
Re
sit and
yeah,
really think.
really impressed with the
Yeah,
questions that were sent through.
they were
So the
great.
first one is, what made you want to illustrate this book when you read Deborah's text?
Um, I suppose, as I mentioned before, whenever I get sent a story, I'm always grateful to be thought of, and I don't often say no to a story anyway. But yeah, Deb's text was really. I mean, I find it hard to articulate what it is about writing that I like. I'm much more comfortable in talking about pictures and saying why I do or don't like
Hmm.
but there was something about Deb's writing that I really liked. She doesn't over explain things, and
Mm.
she leaves a lot of space for the reader to imagine what might be happening, and then so in my case that left me a lot of space to be able to use the pictures to help sort of tell the story as well, and in that
Mm.
way the pictures and the words were really working together to tell the story, rather than there being a story and then the pictures just copying what the
Yeah.
pictures said. So and yes, and particularly some of her. I mean, I'll just quickly. One of my favourite passages is this one, and
Oh, I love that one. Yeah,
yeah,
because
and
I have to work out what's going on.
yeah, and but also, I mean, when I got the text, it was the story. It was just obviously just typed out, and all it said was
Oh, right.
here, there, over, under, here, there, over, under, and
And you
the
have free
writing gets
license to,
closer
I
and
guess,
closer
be creative
together.
with what you want to do.
Pardon?
Do you have free license then to create the images that you think match the
Yes,
words?
yeah. To begin with, certainly, there's not usually too many. Sometimes authors will provide little notes, but for the most part, I think they're usually happy for the illustrator to, just to see what the illustrator comes up with. And in that case, with that particular passage, it was a really good opportunity for me to sort of fill in what exactly was happening with Tinker. So yeah, I really like the way Deb uses words and uses, I suppose, less words to say more, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I like the movement as well. So with the words
Yes.
and with the illustrations.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
find reading to that age group, being a teacher librarian, those sort of books really captivated them when they had to follow and work out what's going on and use their own imagination
Yeah.
rather
Oh,
than
great.
being just told straight out what it is. And
Yes.
then try, and all the detail in your illustrations as well is they want to read it again and again,
Oh,
those
cool.
books. So it's really interesting too with your book with National Simultaneous Story Time. So that's
Mm,
coming up in a couple of weeks,
I know,
which
that's
means
exciting.
every child, will be reading your
I
story,
know. I know.
which is
That's
super
crazy.
exciting. And have you seen some of the displays that have popped up in libraries and on Instagram? And
I have, and it's amazing. The teachers and librarians and everyone's getting so involved. And yeah, it's funny because one of the I've always had this secret desire to be one of the people that does all the making of the things on Play School. And in Play School they
I
always
could
make.
see you doing
Oh, it'd
that.
be great to be that person that comes up with all those ideas. So I can really, been very excited to see everyone's massive trucks and things they've been making out of boxes. It's been, yeah, so cool. Yeah,
Incredible.
it's great.
Yeah. So the next question I have for you is what were your inspirations for your pictures?
Um, that's a good question. I suppose I quite enjoy comics and graphic novels, and I like the way that they visually tell a story, and they often use the kids will be familiar with the panels or the cells that are used
Mm,
to break up the images, and um, I felt Deb's story kind of lent a lot of the scenes, the spreads lent themselves to me using panels to help. Often I would have to show the passing of time or a lot of different events happening. So I felt that was a really good way to try and visually show
mm.
that. And I really like the Bob Graham and the
Oh,
way that
I
he
love him. Yeah,
illustrates. Yeah, yeah, and he has a real softness,
he does.
and a
And
gentle quality.
childlike as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So and so there was. I wanted to try and. I mean, I'm not necessarily copy what he does, but
No.
sort of bring some of that softness and warmth into the story and the images. Yeah, yeah.
I was curious about the pink. Did that have a special significance or
Yeah. Well, I've, pink's a color I've started to really enjoy using.
mm,
I don't know
it's my
why,
favorite
but
color.
right, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I often use. I think also because I haven't always found color easy to work with.
Mm,
And in the past, I've always used sort of fairly muted tones like
mm,
browns and greens and earthy sort of colors. So I've been trying consciously to add more color to my work. And I think I particularly deliberately dressed Yakub in a
mm,
pink sort of flannel top just to sort of soften that
mm,
trucky that
mm,
idea of a truck driver that everyone has.
mm.
Um, and then from there, that sort of um, dictated what other sort of colors I introduce and use, and certain colors go quite well with pink. And yeah,
I found it interesting the first page he looked very sad, or lonely. Not sad, I think lonely. And so I thought maybe the pink was, he's happy where he is, but I guess you're missing something. So I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Were you trying to convey loneliness? And
Do you
how did
mean that? That's
Yeah, not
yeah.
that, yeah, or the first page when he's bent over.
Oh, like the cover.
Yeah, the cover. Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't. It's funny that's. I suppose I didn't deliberately want to necessarily show that, but I always felt, I mean, that he would be. I mean, truck drivers, they work
it
by
is.
themselves,
Yeah.
so there is a certain loneliness, I suppose, that you would, and he came across as a, not a sad character, but there was a certain sort of melancholy, or I'm trying to think of a simpler word, but yeah. But it's funny actually that you read that. It's not necessarily something I deliberately
Oh, no, everyone
conscious of.
interprets something different.
Yeah, but it obviously, it must have been there that and come through in the drawing. Yeah, yeah.
So what were your favorite parts and the hardest parts to illustrate, and why?
Again, that's a good question. I quite enjoyed drawing the whole book, but my favorite, actually, my two favorite parts are the end papers. And I actually had trouble working out what to put there. I went through quite a few different ideas, and then someone, I think the publisher, suggested that maybe I could use the end papers to help tell a bit more of the story. And so on the front, the first end paper, it's a bit difficult. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I can.
It's
Yep.
Tinker, chasing
Yep.
a butterfly. So you get,
Yep.
I mean, when you first read the book, you get a sense that, it helps to sort of explain a bit of Tinker's character, I suppose, and why he ends up getting lost.
Yeah.
And at the very end, he's there with the
Oh, that's
little
adorable.
boy,
I love
the
that.
child. And they're both
Together.
chasing after the butterfly together. But yeah, that was my favorite. And also because I did that at the very end, I think by then I was quite comfortable with drawing the characters, so they came quite easily. The hardest part, probably the trucks. Anything where you have to draw with straight lines can be a bit tricky. Things like trees, where it's all quite, it doesn't matter if it's wobbly, but trucks and cars and buildings where all the lines are straight, and if your drawing is a little bit crooked, everyone notices. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, and yeah. So,
Did you
and
start drawing from a young age?
I always enjoyed drawing. Yeah. I was always drawing or making, I suppose. I didn't necessarily draw all the time, but I did. Yeah, it's something I always enjoyed. And at school, I always enjoyed doing art and craft, and they were sort of my favorite things. Yeah, things I look forward to doing.
The next question, did you feel any sentiment towards the illustrations?
Yeah, well, it's quite an emotional story in many ways, and yeah, definitely, and I suppose I suppose in a way I had to try and think about how Jakob would be feeling, and Tinker as well. So um, yeah. I mean, in order to try and make your characters real in a way, not necessarily drawn in a real way, but to have, to show feeling, you need to be able to relate to that. And particularly,
Yeah, I found that interesting, to how you do, like, yeah, because I can see the feeling, I can feel it, but I don't know, I wouldn't have a clue how to do it. It's
no, well,
amazing that you can do that.
I know, and if someone asked me how do you do it, I would find it hard to explain. I mean, and I think often when you're trying to get a character, well, for me anyway, I'll be drawing them quite a few times until something starts to feel right, I suppose. And particularly, I mean, this scene here where
Yeah, I felt so bad.
yeah, and I knew I had to try and get the feeling right in that one for it to be convincing.
I loved
Particularly,
how you sequenced it.
yeah. I was happy with. Yeah, it took me a little while to try and work out exactly how I was going to go about this one. But once I worked it out, I thought, oh, yeah, that actually works quite well. Particularly when Jakub is left at the end, just sort of by himself.
Yeah,
He still has Tinker.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think I had to, as much as I could, try and empathize with the characters. Yeah.
The next question is, which character did you relate to the most in the story?
Yes, that was a good question too. I had to think about that. And the answer is honestly no one particular character. I don't think so, but I enjoyed drawing them all, and I particularly liked Tinker. Not necessarily that I relate to being a cat or cats, but
Mm.
I think after a while I quite enjoyed drawing Tinker, and particularly when he starts running off,
Yeah.
chasing the butterfly.
Yeah.
Uh, that was fun actually drawing him in his different poses as he's jumping over the rubbish bin and trying to catch the butterfly.
I thought it was really clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so perhaps Tinker, but yeah, I quite enjoyed all the characters. Yeah.
Awesome. The next question is, did you enjoy illustrating the truck cat, which I think you have,
Yeah.
but is there a particular reason why?
Um, I think.
Did you think it would you'd be this successful? Like you'd be nominated for awards
Oh
and
no, that's
no?
funny. Someone asked us the other day that I think when we went to the awards ceremony in Melbourne, someone said, "Did you realise
Mm.
how much it would be received, how well it would be received?" And no, not really. It's at the time when I'm illustrating a book, I'm just trying to make sure it looks good, I suppose,
Yeah. Yeah.
from my point of view, and make sure that I meet my deadlines and
Of
everyone's
course.
happy with it, and
Yep.
all those sorts of things. So yeah, certainly not thinking that far ahead. Um, what did I enjoy about? I think just the whole process and working with Deb and working with the publishers at Hardy Grant. They were a really nice group of people to work with. So and it felt quite collaborative, even though we were all in the sort of a long way away from each other in different states. It was yeah, it was a nice process. The whole sort of way through the book from
Mm.
start to finish. So yeah.
Awesome. The next question, do you begin with preconceived images in your head before you illustrate the story, or do you think of an animal, e.g., like the cat for truck cat, then actually go out to look at animals or go online and then sort of start from there?
Yeah, I don't often have preconceived images in my head. It always takes me a while to try and work out exactly how
Mm.
it's all going to look and come together. And yes, I need to do. Even though I enjoy drawing, I mean, there's not. I don't often draw cats, so I had to go and going online is usually easier. Or we do have a cat as well, but she doesn't always sit still. They're not always the most cooperative animals. But yeah, there's no shortage of cat images online. So
Especially at the moment.
yeah,
There's a lot.
yes, yes. So I did a lot of. I usually have to do a lot of research and sort of gather as much many pictures and things of whatever the character is that I'm drawing. So in this case, it was cats and trucks
Mm.
and food. And bakeries, the insides of bakeries, trying to work out how that might look.
Mm.
So yeah, I do a lot of research and then sort of start building it from there. Yeah,
Did
and
you
that's what.
personally try and avoid making it like a fluffy cat, like to make it look like more of a, a truck cat?
Sorry, what was the start of it?
Like a white fluffy cat, and did you
Yeah.
steer away from that kind of thing to tie in
Oh,
with the story,
yes,
or
I didn't, and also because fluffy cats aren't always easy to
okay? Okay, so it's the practical
and
nature
also
of it.
I did start because the story Deb, the idea for the story that Deb got was her first encounter with their cat that's called Tonka. So and she had sent me a few photos of their cat. So
Oh.
I did start sort of loosely. I mean, and it's a fairly sort of ordinary looking cat, but he's black and white. So the first few attempts that I made at the character of Tinker were sort of a black and white cat. Um, but black isn't always easy
Mm.
to, doesn't always show up a lot of detail, especially when you want to show expression and all that sort of thing. So yeah, Tinker became a more sort of generic sort of stripy brown tabby cat.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
The next question, do you ever dream about your characters?
This is a really
It
good
was
question.
funny, yeah.
No, unfortunately, no. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't. I'm not one of those people that remembers my dreams. Usually, I know I do dream, and you sort of remember them for about a minute after you wake up, and then they're gone. I mean, that's the case for me anyway. So no, I don't actually dream about my characters, but I wish I could say yes, because that would be
Pretty cool.
more interesting answer, I think, to that great question.
Yeah, awesome. The next one, do you see things and write these observations down in a notebook or an iPad so you remember the ideas for later?
I do and I don't. I should more. I do. I have got into the habit more recently of taking a little notebook, sketchbook with me that I write down ideas in and draw in and doodle in, because you do forget. You do get ideas every now and then for jobs you're working on or books you're working on or even ideas for stories. And unless you write them down, you do forget. And just the other day, I thought of something. I thought, hey, that's not a bad idea, and I didn't write it down, and now I can't remember what it was. So
Yeah,
it's lost to time. But
that's a good one.
yes, it is a good habit to get into. And I think you'll find that most authors and illustrators do have a notebook of some sort, so they can jot down ideas even if they
Creative
don't
ideas.
go anywhere. It's it's a good
Awesome.
habit to get into.
And just to wrap up, so what was the process of actually drawing the illustrations? Did you do it on paper or do you use technology? How did it sort of come together?
These days, I use the computer more and more.
Mm-hmm.
I use Photoshop,
Yep.
and I have a tablet.
Yep.
Doesn't look very interesting, but it's just a little that I draw on with
Yep.
a pen.
Yep.
And I'll start by doing some character sketches and then some very rough sketches for how I think the each scene, each spread might look. And then from there, they get gradually more detailed to the point where it's ready to actually illustrate. So there are quite a few steps, and then along the way, I'm showing the publisher and the author how it's looking, and they're making suggestions as well. But so it does usually start as a very rough sketches, very loose, and then it gradually gets more detailed and more refined. And I used to do a lot of the work, especially the roughs, as on paper with pencil. But now I'm more used to working with the tablet, and it's quite easy to rub out and
Yeah, of course.
that way.
I guess you can get a lot of detail as well.
Yeah. And I used before, in the past, I used to actually paint most of my
Oh, wow.
illustrations. But I have, gradually moved to working with the computer more and more, and it is a bit quicker and a little easier to make changes and adjust colors and things like that. So,
do you layer things as you go, or is it just you start with one and you just keep drawing the same, like the same illustration?
layer things as in
I don't know, like do you overlay things on top of one another to get different effects?
Yeah. And Photoshop works that way. There are lots of layers. Yeah. So one image might have 50 to 100 layers.
Oh, really?
It gets
Oh,
quite detailed.
wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I don't usually work. I work more in layers, and that way I can. It's a little difficult to keep track of what's happening
I
sometimes.
would think so, yeah.
But I find it easier to then make changes as well. So I'll go to that layer that's got the drawing of Tinker on it, and then I'll be able to more easily edit and make changes.
No, that's
So
really
it
interesting.
does get, and also then you can build up layers. I like to try and add a lot of texture to my images as well.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can really tell when you're sort of, I love the complexity of looking at that. That's why I thought there were layers in
Oh,
there.
cool. Yeah, yeah. Oh, not yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's good that no. It's good. That must be it's good to know that people are can see that.
Well, even it's funny when you're reading it to kids, they do pick up on these things. They don't have the vocabulary to tell you, but they will straight away, wow, like they will go,
Yeah,
look at
yeah. No,
that,
excellent.
and they will
Oh, that's
spend
good.
ages like looking at the little details and
Yeah. Oh, cool.
yeah. So I think it's going to be so interesting to see everyone reading it for National Simultaneous Story
Yeah, yeah.
Time. In seeing what the results will be, even with the Shadow Judging Awards. Are you coming down to the? Are you based in Sydney or? Are you
I'm
coming
in
to the
Adelaide.
awards? Oh, you're in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So
So and I think it's in.
oh yes, in yeah, I think is it WA? No,
No, no, they're in Canberra. The awards are in
that's
Canberra.
right. It is in Canberra this year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah,
Hope I hope to, but I haven't quite decided or committed or
yeah.
bought a ticket yet. But it would be good because I mean, it's not often that you make the shortlist, so it would be great to go and just experience it all as well.
The
And
Shadow Judges actually go as well. So I went
oh, cool.
last
Oh,
year.
wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, and some of them had made like little models of the house, from Tristan Bank's book, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. Right. Oh,
really, really
excellent.
interesting, and it was nice to see those. So,
Ah,
yeah, I loved going, and I probably will go again this year. So, yeah,
yeah.
crossing fingers for the truck cat. I think it
Oh,
would
thank
be
you. No,
awesome.
that's actually that's made it more interesting for me. Yeah, I might actually. It'd be great to meet the shadow judges and to go and actually see
Yeah.
what they've created as well. That
Yeah,
sounds.
I was blown away by the creation. Actually, and they spoke as well in front of
Oh, cool.
everybody.
Yeah.
And I really love the fact that they pick a winner and then, obviously the CBCA pick their winner as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, because you do sometimes get different responses from kids to
Yes.
adults. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a great process to have both. So
Yes.
I
Yeah. No, that's
might
a really
see
good
you there.
initiative. Yeah. Yeah.
And good luck for the awards. And
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you for your illustrations. And there's going to be children everywhere and parents really enjoying your story over the
No,
next couple of months.
thank you, and thank you for the interview and for the great questions. They were excellent. It's really got me thinking.